For 52 years, the official record said Yuri Petrov of the Soviet Union finished third at the 1974 World Archery Championships. But FITA, the body that governs the sport, made sure you'd never learn he shot a perfect round that afternoon in Grenoble, and that two officials walked onto the range and altered his score before it was ever formally entered. That's the story they tell. It isn't what happened. Someone made sure you'd never hear this. Here's what the records were rewritten to hide. Grenoble, France, August 1974. The World Archery Championships were being watched more closely than any previous edition. 3 years after Munich had brought archery back to the Olympic Games, the sport was still fighting for permanent status. Federations from 12 countries were lobbying FITA, the Fédération Internationale de Tir à l'Arc, over how scores were weighted and how equipment was regulated. The stakes were political. Soviet bloc had produced some of the most technically precise archers in the world, and the Western federations knew it. Whoever controlled the rules controlled who won. That summer, the rules were about to be rewritten. And one man's arrow placement was going to be the reason. Yuri Petrov was 26 years old. He had been shooting competitively since he was 11. His coaches described his form as mechanical, not a compliment, a technical observation. He didn't surge. He didn't collapse. He simply hit the center, repeatedly. On August 7th, in the outdoor 90-meter round, witnesses at the range described something they had never seen. Every arrow Petrov released found the gold, not most, every single one. At 90 meters, nearly the length of a football field, he was splitting previous arrows. The range marshal marked his card. The running total reached 1440, a perfect score. Here's what the official record shows. Petrov finished the competition with 1,411 points. Bronze, no flag, no ceremony, no mention of what happened on the range that afternoon. The discrepancy is 29 points. That's not a scoring error, that's a decision. The obvious explanation is equipment failure. FITA rules allow judges to review arrows for irregularities, fletching damage, point deformation, and void shots that don't meet spec. Petrov's arrows were reviewed. That part is documented. But here's what doesn't hold. The review happened after the round was complete, not during, not at the moment of the disputed shots. After, equipment checks run during a round flag the arrow immediately. A post-round review that voids previously scored shots had no procedural basis in the 1974 rulebook. The judges who signed off on the voids were both from Western European federations. Neither was neutral. Neither was ever asked to explain their decision in writing. But that's not the part they buried. In 2022, a Swiss archivist digitizing records from the old FITA administrative offices in Lausanne found a box of materials from the 1974 championships. Inside was Petrov's original scorecard, not the official submitted version. The range marshal's handwritten working copy, the one filled in live arrow by arrow before transfer to the formal record. The working card shows 1440. It also shows 2 annotations in a different pen, different handwriting, added after the round, not during. Those annotations void 4 arrows in the second set. They drop the score to 1411. And in the margin, in French, there is a notation that translates roughly to: per standing instruction, equipment irregularity, JV, the initials of Jean Vernier, the FITA technical director from 1971 to 1979. There is no standing instruction in the 1974 rulebook that corresponds to that annotation. What Vernier and the Western federations understood, and what the Soviets had already begun to calculate, was that a verified perfect score by a Soviet archer would trigger a mandatory review of scoring and equipment standards. That review would force rule changes. Those rule changes would systematically advantage Soviet-style equipment through the next Olympic cycle. An entire generation of international competition tilted. They couldn't let the score stand, so they made sure it didn't. Petrov never competed internationally again after 1975. No explanation was recorded. He returned to regional circuits inside the Soviet Union, won 3 more domestic titles, and retired in 1983. He died in 2011. He never publicly challenged the 1974 result. The athletes who finished first and second in Grenoble, both from Western European programs, went on to sponsorships and federation roles that lasted decades. Vernier retired from FITA in 1979. He received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the organization in 1991. The rulebook anomaly that permitted a post-round equipment void was quietly removed in the 1977 revision. No explanation was given. No one connected it to 1974. The world archery community forgot Petrov's name completely. And that, more than the altered card or the margin notation, is how you know the burial was deliberate. Obscurity at this scale doesn't happen by accident. The Lausanne archivist published her findings in a small circulation archiving journal. The archery press didn't pick it up. World Archery, which is what FITA calls itself now, has not responded to any requests for comment. The working scorecard still exists. 52 years after that afternoon in Grenoble, not one person with the authority to change the official record has chosen to look at it. Which makes you wonder what else they've decided you don't need to know.